Hi, so welcome to the second episode of my How to Make an Undertale / Deltarune fan game tutorial series. And this episode will be on how to implement basic movement. And a disclaimer before you begin, the first few episodes of this series will be taking some code directly from Kibi's tutorial series, just because it works really well, and that's pretty much all the code in this episode. But the further we get along in the tutorial series, the more and more it's just going to be my own code, because I had to figure out how to do things on my own after Kibi stopped uploading. So with that out of the way, let's begin. Okay, something real quick before we begin is I mistakenly said to put a second folder of the same name in here. Don't do that. You actually want to, if you did do that, just drag it out to like where the original folder is, and that should fix it for you. And then your GitHub desktop here, you just want to click locate and select this folder, and that should fix everything for you. Just commit to main and then push to origin, and it should be all good. Yeah. So now that we have that fixed, we can get started. Okay, so first, you're going to open up your project, okay? And so, now I'm just going to do some explaining of some basic things. So, in the last episode, I did some things, I didn't really explain them, so let me explain them now. So, here in our objects folder is where all the objects are. Objects are like any, I guess objects in the game that like runs code, and it can be visible or invisible. The objects are just like what's going to be running code for the most part. And rooms are, I think, pretty self-explanatory, just like the rooms where things happen, right? And you have objects in rooms that run code. And so first, with our object player here that we created, right now it's just literally nothing. It's a blank sprite, or it's invisible, it doesn't have anything. So to fix that, we are going to import a sprite. Alright, and to get the sprites for our game, we're going to be using this website called the Spiders Resource, which has a collection of sprites from like pretty much every game ever. So if you want sprites from, Undertale or Deltarune or even in a different game, you can get them here, or you can make your own sprites if you know how to do that. I will go over that in a later tutorial. As a placeholder, before I actually have the real sprites I'm going to use for the game, I am going to use Noelle as a placeholder, as I said. So we can just click download the sheet for whatever sprites you need, and then you want to save it to preferably a sprites folder in your project folder. And if it saves to your downloads, you can copy and paste it into your newly created sprites folder within your project folder. So save. And now we know it's saved. Okay, so to add the sprite to here, we are going to go under our sprites folder here, click create sprite, and we're going to name this SPR for sprite underscore Noelle, and then W for walk, and then D for down. This is going to be her downwards sprite walking animation. Our FPS, we can set that to like 5, should be fine. And then don't click that, I didn't mean to do that. So what we're going to do is click edit image, import strip image, click the sprite sheet that we've downloaded. Now, we want to zoom in the sprites we want, which are these four here. And what we're going to do is we're going to move the little box to be in the top left corner of the sprites we want. So then, we want to increase the number of frames to 4, and then the frames per row to also be 4, since it's a 4 frame walk cycle. And we're going to change frame width. We want to make that smaller so that it lines up with the first box. In frame height, we're going to make that bigger. And there we go. So now all the sprite is covered. And then, so that I get all the sprites, I'm going to go horizontal separation. We're just going to increase it like that. And there we go. So now all these sprites are in the boxes. This is what we want. So we want to convert. And yes. And now we have 4 different images for Noelle's walk. And you can click the little play button to show that it works. Great. So now what we want to do is get this magic wand tool right here. And we are going to select the purple with the tool and press the delete key. And this will get rid of the purple background, purplish paint color, right? And we gotta do that for each frame, which is a little annoying, but the magic wand tool makes it not so bad. Alright, and now that we have Noelle's walk down sprite, we want to import her other sprites. So we're just gonna duplicate Noelle's sprite here, and we're gonna rename it from Noelle WD for walk down to Noelle WU for walk up. And you can name your sprites however you want. This is just the way I like to do it. I'm gonna duplicate again for walk left, and we're going to duplicate again for walk right. Alright, and so now for all these three sprites here, we're going to open the lock. We're going to click Edit Image, Import Strip Image. We're going to click the sprite sheet, and we're going to zoom in. We're going to find the sprites we need. In this case, we're doing walk left, so we do the ones where she is walking to the left. Click Convert, yes, and go through the process of deleting the purpleness. Okay, it might be a good idea to zoom out a little for some reason. So here too, we're gonna delete, and delete. Yeah, so just for each of these, you wanna go through that same process we went through earlier. Okay, again, I'm gonna use this as an example for one more image. Import strip image, import the sprite sheet, oops, control and scroll wheel to zoom. We're going to find the right walking sprites because this is the right walking sprites here. So we just want to click convert. Yes, and now we have the right ones, and we're going to go through and delete. And I'm going to speed this up because you should be able to figure out how to do the rest. Okay, so now for our final one for the walk up, I am going to challenge you to try and do it yourself. And if you can't figure it out, don't worry, just come back and I'll explain it, but give it a shot. Alright, so have you done it? If not, I'm just gonna go over how to do it again. Click Edit Image, click Image up here, Import Strip Image, select the sprite sheet, find the walking up sprites, and click Convert. Great, and now just go through, delete the purple. This one, there's a few extra spots you got to be careful about due to the separation caused by the antlers up here. That is if you're using them out. You could very well be using Chris or Lancer or whoever you want. Right, and there you go. Now you have the walk up sprites, or, well, you have the walk right sprites, walk left, and the walk down. Oh, I should also mention you should be careful not to accidentally drag and swap the frames like you're seeing here. Otherwise, you're going to get weird results like this. Yeah, if that does happen, you can just drag them back to their normal order, and then it should look like that. And you can also change the frame rate to something else if you like a different frame rate better. So I think that's a little fast. I like to do 5. There you go. Okay, and now what we need to do, we need to go up. You can move around your workspace here by middle clicking to our player object here. We can drag Noelle, walk it down as the sprite. So now this will be just the default sprite when we have that object. Right here, it's Noelle. And if we run it, by pressing F5 again, if you forgot, we have Noelle and she's walking down. Only issue is, you press the keys, she's not moving, she doesn't stop when she's not moving, so let's fix that. So, first thing we want to do is we want to add an event to the object. So an event is a certain page of code for an object that only executes at certain times depending on what kind of event it is. Some events only execute once, and some execute every frame, and some only execute when you press a certain button. But for now, we're going to make a create event. We're going to click Add Event, and this is going to be a create event, which means that when this object is created in a room or whatever, this is the code that's going to run then. So this will only run once when the object is created. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to add a comment. Now, a comment is a piece of text that you put in your code, and it doesn't do anything. It's just it's something you put in your code that makes it so you understand what each part does. And so you can like clearly see, okay, this is the part that does this, or this is the part that does that. So to add a comment in GameMaker Studio, all you have to do is press the slash key 2 times. And then you can type whatever you want, and it won't have any effects on the code. So, the comment we're going to leave is define variables. Now, we're leaving this this specific comment here because what we're going to do next is, well, define the variables. And so what is a variable, you might ask? A variable is something that stores information that you can use in your code. And this can be anything from some text for lines of dialogue, or it can be a number for stats, for example, like walking speed or running speed, or it can be like your attack, your defense, and you can add and subtract like variables. You can do all sorts of things with them, and they are going to be one of your best friends when it comes to making a game. So the first variable we are going to define is x spd equals 0. And this is because just when the object is created, we don't want it to be moving. by default, without pressing any arrow keys, we don't want the character to be moving. So we created this variable xSpeed and we set it to 0. That's all we did here. And you can name it whatever you want to if you prefer to type out the whole thing. If you feel like it's too hard to like remember like certain abbreviations that I do, you can write out the full thing. So you can name variables whatever you want. So xSpeed equals 0. Pretty simple so far. And then we want to do the same thing with y. Y speed equals 0. And for now, just ignore this like whole little chart that shows up when you start typing. I'll get to that later. So for now, all we have is xSpeed equals 0, y speed equals 0. This means, I mean, right now it doesn't do anything. It just creates variables and sets them without doing anything. In order for variables to do stuff, you have to have code that says to do things when these certain variables are true. But for now, we just created some blank variables. So the next variable we want to create is move underscore spd equals 2. Now this is going to be so the x speed and y speed is just how fast the character that the player is moving in the x-axis and in the y-axis. This isn't like how fast they can move in each direction, it's just how fast the object is currently moving in either direction, or in like both of them at the same time. Whereas the move speed is the actual speed that, you know, the player can move in any given direction, if that makes any sense. If you would like further explanation, please tell me in the comments. And so these are all the variables we'll need for now. Alright, and so now we're going to add another event. So again, the create event only executes one time at the creation of an object. But obviously it's not very useful if we just have an object that creates some variables but doesn't do anything with them, right? That isn't very useful. So in order for it to actually do things, we're going to add another event called a step event. We're just going to click step without, not the begin step or end step, but just step right here. And so what a step event does is it is code that runs every single frame. In our case, this will be 30 times a second since our game is 30 FPS. Oh, and I should mention you can add a description to your events here. If you delete this here and you just type in what you want the description to be, in case you're going to forget what each event does, you can just type runs every frame, and you can copy this to your first event here, the create event, and you can change this to runs upon creation. There you go. So now if you don't think you can remember create or step, you'll know that you can just see right here, create runs upon creation, and step runs every frame. Okay, so now you can delete this, you don't need that. Again, I want to say thank you to Kiwi because their tutorials are where I got this code from. So, and it works really well for a Deltarune kind of movement system. In Undertale, like it's basically identical. Okay, so now that we have all these variables set and defined, we need to actually use them somehow so that we can move up and down and left and right when you press the buttons. So, always a good idea. You want to describe what this you're about to program. So we're going to write control so that you always know that, okay, this is where the controls are like being programmed. So yes, first we need to actually program the controls. So in GameMaker Studio, there are these things called functions, and functions are built-in tools that let you perform certain actions. For instance, there is a function called keyboard underscore check, and the keyboard underscore check function will check if a certain key on your keyboard is being held down. And if you ever need help with that, if you hover over a function, if you forget what it does, it will tell you, you can see in the description below, that says with this function you can check to see if a key is held down or not. And so obviously this is going to be very useful for when we're checking if we have the left key pressed down or the right key or up or down. The only thing is that it gets pretty annoying if to type this out 100 million times throughout your code for the movement. So instead of doing that, what we can do is, well, first we want to say what key we're actually checking. And so in GameMaker Studio, the up, down, left, and right keys are VK underscore up, for example, for the up key. That is the name of the up key when you're talking about it in the code. So we're going to check the keyboard to see if the up key is being pressed. And so we're going to do this for each of the directions. So you can just copy and paste it 3 more times. And we're going to delete the up and type down. We're going to delete the up here and type in left. We're going to delete the up here and type in right. Oops, I spelled that wrong. There you go. And if it's red, that's how you know that you've done it right. And you may notice these little yellow squiggly lines here. That is because you can't just type it and not have anything else. So what we're going to do is create these things called local variables, which can only be used in this event, not in the create event or any other events we create. Only in the create event we'll be able to use this local variable, it's called. And so the reason we're doing this is just because since we're only ever going to be using it in the step event here, it just saves up like the memory in the game, and it's just more optimized. So in order to do that, we are going to type before each of the things var space up underscore key equals keyboard check vk up. And so what this is going to do is this is going to let us just type the up key instead of typing this every single time we want to use this piece of code here and check if the up key is being pressed. So now I challenge you to this not a hard challenge to do the same thing for the rest and see if you can figure it out. Alright, are you back? So in order to do it for the rest of the keys, you just want to type this equals that, and we're going to change it from up to down. Oh my god, I keep typing U before it. Anyway, now we have variable down key equals keyboard check vk down. And again, now we can just type down key instead of keyboard check vk down every single time we want to use this function. And again, we can type it here and change it from up to left. And here we can change it from up to down. So now these are going to be used for the code for whenever you press the up arrow, you're going to go up. So now we just have to actually program the movement in. So to do that, we're going to first create a new section with a comment called movement. You don't need to, but I recommend it because it makes your code a lot more organized and readable. So one thing I should mention before we continue is that I actually forgot to say that if you just want one walking speed and you don't want to have any running, you can just leave this as move speed. You don't need to do anything else. But if you do want to have a different walking speed from running speed, you need to add two more variables, walk underscore spd for walk speed equals, and then I like 2.4, and for a run speed, you type run underscore spd, and I set this as 4.6. So in order to make the move speed either equal to the walk speed or the run speed, what you need to do is create code for that. So what we want to do is create code saying that if, and this is a very, very important thing you need to learn, if, which means basically if something is happening, run this code. So if x, then it's gonna, and you can't put in parentheses if you want. I'm gonna do that just so it's clear what I'm doing. So if you have x, then you're going to have these little brackets, and this is going to be the code that it runs. So then you can imagine these little brackets here as like being then, right? Don't actually type what I'm typing here. This is just to explain it. So if you have x, then you're going to execute, maybe we should put this like here. If x, then you want to execute whatever code you have here, like move speed equals 3, right? Just as an example, we're not doing this, but that's just the basic structure of an if statement. So basically, you can delete that and delete all this. And so right now, what you want to do is you want to have if, some parentheses, and then these little brackets here with a line in between them. So what we're about to do is we're going to check if the player is sprinting, and if so, then we're going to set their speed to the run speed, and if they're just walking, we're going to have the movement speed be the walk speed. And to check if they're running or sprinting, you're going to do if, and then key, or... So now I'm going to talk about this menu here. This menu is going to show like all the possible things that you can type. So in order to get to them, you want to press the down arrow or the up arrow to navigate through them. And then once you're over the one that you want, you can press enter and it will type it for you. So if keyboard check, and then VK, and then shift, like it's the first one there, so I can just press enter. If the keyboard has the shift key held down, then we're going to do some code. And and I should also say another very important thing we want to do is OR. And so what OR does is it means that if you're doing one thing or you're doing another thing, you can do this code. So so the second thing we want is if keyboard check, and then if you want to check for a regular letter and not one of the special keys like shift or control or alt or the arrow keys, what you need to type is ORD, which stands for like, I guess, ordinary. I'm not actually sure, but ORD, and then you need two more parentheses, and inside the parentheses, you quotation marks. It's a little confusing, I'm sorry about that. And then a capital of whatever letter you want. In this case, X, because in Deltarune you can press both Shift and X in order to sprint. And so now we have this statement: if the keyboard has the Shift key held down, or if the keyboard has the X key held down, then we want to execute this code here. So the code that we need is, and when you have your brackets in an if statement, it's a good idea to press the tab key so that your code within the if statement like is separate and not just like on the same level. It makes it a little easier to read, and especially the more that you code, the better it is to have these. What you want to do is type move underscore spd, and you can see it's listed here, so you can click it or enter again, equals run speed, or you can press tab. I should mention that too. So basically, let's just recap. If you're pressing one of the two keys for sprinting, set your speed at which you're moving at to the sprinting speed. Now, what about walking? Well, now that's the next part. We want to type else, which means that if this statement here isn't true, we want to run the next thing. And if the statement here isn't true, that means you must be walking. So what we want to do is type move underscore speed equals walk speed, right? And so now, if you're pressing one of the keys to sprint, then you're sprinting. And otherwise, if you're not doing that, the speed you're moving at is walking. And this will only apply when you're moving, for the reasons we'll get to later on. So next, what we want to do is exactly that reason and program in the actual, movement. If you press the arrow keys, nothing really happens. Okay, so in order to program the actual movement, we want to type our y speed. Remember, we put here. So this will be how fast we're moving up and down, and we want to set y speed equal to, and in parentheses, because we're creating a math equation here. It's very simple, don't worry about it. So we just need to type right underscore key. So, if the right key is being pressed down, minus if the left key is being pressed down. Oops, I forgot to set the right key. See me. Right, there we go, and that should fix it in a second. It should turn yellow, there we go. So if the right key is being pushed down, minus if the left key is being pushed down, times our move underscore speed. Okay, and now that we have that, we want to copy, and we want to paste it here and change it from X, from Y to X, and from right to down, and from left to up. Alright. So great. Now, in order to make sure this all works, you can press F5 to test it. And oh, I made a mistake. I forgot to put an equal sign here for right key. All right. So if we run it now, and I did the same thing for left key. Oh my gosh. Okay. There you go. So now if we do that, we can. Okay. So now what we're gonna do in order to make sure we actually move is, and not just like it does all this math but it doesn't do anything with it, is we need to make sure that our x, and x here is the actual x coordinate of our object, and we're going to add with plus equals, when you're adding a value like this, you need to use plus equals, and then we're going to type in our x speed. So everything we've done before, like we've calculated what the x speed is, but we haven't done anything with it, and now what we're actually doing is adding what our x speed is to our x. And we're going to do the same thing for our y and y speed. There we go. And so now, if we click run, oh, it seems that I have written my code backwards, and the up and down arrows do left and right does up and down. So let me fix that actually. Oh, I see what I did wrong. I typed x instead of y and y instead of x here. So if you don't make that mistake, then it works fine. There we go. And now, yes, we have a movement, which is very similar to the movement in Undertale. If we compare it here. So that's very similar. And feels pretty identical. You might want to tweak these values a little. I might want to tweak them myself a little. These are the values that I had on hand, and that I know at least somewhat work. But as you can tell, it does move us the way we want it to. However, we're not animated. So in order to animate the character, what we want to do is add 2 little slashes here, and to add another comment, type animate, because this is where we're going to be animating stuff. And so what we want to do is type if x speed is greater than 0. So if we're moving in the x direction, I should put this in parentheses so that we know that we're it's if this. You don't need to, but I like it for just to be clear about what I'm doing. So if we're moving positively in the x direction, we want to click tab so we have an indent. So we're going to use a new thing here called sprite underscore index. And so what the sprite index is what sprite the object is using, because right now it's using the Noelle walk down sprite, but sometimes we don't want the Noelle walk down sprite. So if we're moving positively in the x direction, that's going to be right, obviously. So sprite index equals spr underscore Noelle rock right. Oh, and here's a good time to mention, if you ever name a sprite wrong and you don't want to change it because you're like, oh, I have to go back in the code and change all the instances where I spelled the sprite that way, you can just rename a sprite, and as long as you spelled it right in the code, you do that, it will change it here for you. So just in case you don't you want to try out a different way of spelling stuff and naming things, just see how you like it, you can go back and change it. But I'm gonna keep it as Noelle WR, just because I think it's funny if we have WD for Gaster, but it's not actually Gaster. Anyhow, so sprite index is going to equal the walk right sprite. So yeah, if we test this out, if I start walking right, it's going to do that, but I can't turn back. So obviously we need to add the code for the rest. So what we're going to do is add an else, which means otherwise, basically if we're going right, you want to make the sprite face right. Otherwise, if the x speed is greater than 0, then and I like to put this in parentheses again. You don't have to. So if you're going left, basically, sprite index, right underscore index equals, and can you guess it? I bet you can. SPR underscore Noelle left. Great. And you can probably guess how to do the rest. So I'm going to challenge you to try and do that yourself, and come back when you're done. Alright, welcome back. I hope you were able to figure it out. If not, that's a-okay. It does not matter. You're still learning. So what you want to do is just paste what you had here before with the else if, change it from x to y, and change it from left to down. And you can do the same thing yet again, but this time, instead of it being greater than, we want less than. And instead of down, left, we want up. So now, you're able to run it, and have it work. Looks like I messed up for left. Let me check that. Oh, I forgot to flip the sign. That's my bad. Okay, so now, if you do that, it should work. There we go. Alright, and so now we have the ability to walk around in a room, like that. Only one issue is that when you aren't moving, it still moves. So let's fix that, and that will be the end of the tutorial. Okay, so to finish this off, all we need to do is type if, and then we add our parentheses, x speed, and exclamation mark equals, which means does not equal. So if x speed isn't 0, or if y speed isn't 0, then we're going to add our little brackets here. We're going to say that image underscore speed, and this is a new thing that we are introducing here, and basically this is how fast the image is moving, and so we're going to set it to 1. So this is just going to be 100% of the normal speed, which is 5 frames per second. So basically if the player is moving, then the image should move. Otherwise, and we're going to use else here again. You want to type image speed equals 0, and this is another new thing, image index equals 0 as well. And so basically what the image index is the frame of the animation. right? We have, you know, the first, second, third, fourth, fifth. So basically, you'll see if I move, like, you know, I move, right? But when I stop, it's I'm on just the resting frame for that part of the animation. Although you may notice a little delay when you start moving, like I can do that and it's not moving, and so I apologize for this tutorial being so long. But in order to fix this, we need to add 4 more events, which we only need like 1 line of code per event. So we need to do be pressed. I'm going to do left. I'm going to do add event, be pressed, right, add event, be pressed, up, add event, be pressed, down. So for each of these, you can add a description if you want, just like it will run one time when you press down the key. If you want to put that as the description as runs once when left is pressed, and you can do that for all of them if you just want to make sure you understand what the each thing does. But I myself am just going to delete this because I don't need that. So for key press left, all we need to do is type sprites underscore index, and remember this is what sprite the object is. So in this case, we're going to set this to SBR underscore ML walk left, and we're going to set image index equals 1. And so basically what this does is it sets it to ML's walking left frame, and it sets it to what down here GameMaker Studio 2 considers like the first frame when you're talking about the code. Frame 0, if you want it to be like frame 0, you put this, but we don't want that. Like that's what we're trying to fix it from being this. Just when you you know, press left, it just like does that. But obviously you see now that we fixed it and that she moves a little when we just tap it. Whereas like for the other ones, she just slides. We don't want the sliding. This isn't Lancer, right? Anyway, but as you can see, it fixes the issue, and we just need to do that for each of the directions. So for right, we just change it to R, and we just copy, paste. Instead of left, we want up, and instead of left, we want down. And now, we've done all that. It works exactly as it should, and we can walk diagonally even if we want, and we don't slide if we just tap the thing, and yeah. Alright, and once you've got everything done, just don't forget to open up GitHub Desktop. You should see like some changes in your thing. Give it a title of the commit, and we're gonna name this commit added movement, and we'll put commit to main and push the origin. And now that we have that done, we're all done with this tutorial. Also, I would like to know if you guys would prefer if I did shorter tutorials with just a few quick things in them, and this would be more frequent, or if you prefer if I did longer tutorials where I go more in depth with like everything you need to know for a certain thing, or if I should just do a mix of the two. And I got this comment on a community poll I made asking the same question, and I personally am fine with doing both. It's not really an issue for me doing long or short. Personally, I know I like longer tutorials, like watching them, but I know that can be kind of daunting for some people. So I'm just curious what you guys would prefer in general, if I should have shorter or longer tutorials. And then if I do longer ones, I'm going to have some short ones, and if I do short ones, I'm going to have some long ones, just since some mechanics take a shorter time to implement than others. Alright, and with that, we have the basics of movement done for our fan game, and in the next episode, we will look at adding rooms and collision. I hope this tutorial was helpful, and good luck with your fan games!